MSI have a brand new 5K gaming monitor which uses a glossy finish. It has a 2304 zone mini LED local dimming backlight for HDR content. They've also got a G-Sync PULSAR monitor that we're going to look at. They've got another 5K monitor, and they've got some pretty interesting, well actually they've got a thing with some AI features that we're going to take a look at, as well as some new screen coatings for some of their productivity focused monitors. So let's go take a look at all of that.
Thanks to MSI for sponsoring our CES coverage. Check out MSI's range of GeForce RTX 50 series graphics cards powered by NVIDIA Ada GPU architecture with advanced ray tracing and DLSS. They deliver elite airflow, they have a great thermal design and stunning aesthetics for incredible gaming performance. Included is MSI's unique 7-blade Stormforce fans which boost airflow and reduce noise. The Supreme and Vanguard models include vapor chamber cooling, while the Supreme Liquid features a 360mm radiator. All models provide advanced tuning and monitoring capabilities via the MSI Center and MSI Afterburner. Learn more about MSI's RTX 50 series via the links in the description.
Also supporting our CES coverage is Thermal Grizzly and their Cryo Sheet, an excellent alternative to thermal pastes, and because they don't use any liquid, they can never dry out. These graphene thermal pads offer very high thermal conductivity, are easy to use, are extremely durable, and can be used to maximize your CPU and/or GPU's cooling performance. So for more information, please check the links in the video description. We'd also like to thank Endorphy, creators of the award-winning Fluctus fans, available in both 120 and 140mm. These high-performance fans are designed to move air efficiently in dense spaces, with focused airflow and reduced noise. Perfect for CPU, power supplies, PC cases, and more. So to learn more, please click the links in the video description.
So this is MSI's G-Sync PULSAR monitor. It is called the MPG 272 QRF X36, and this should be available, in fact it actually could be available by the time this video goes out. They're supposed to be launching, I think, in North America on January the 7th. So pretty soon. Now, if you're interested in G-Sync PULSAR, basically this is NVIDIA's new backlight strobing technology that also works with adaptive sync variable refresh rates. We do have a full review of the G-Sync PULSAR tech already on the channel. So if you're interested to know how that particular panel works and everything, you can just check that out. We did test the Asus model for that, but this is the exact same panel. So it's the same 1440p IPS LCD at up to 360 Hz with G-Sync PULSAR. So the exact same results that you would have seen from that Asus monitor will also apply to this MSI. There's really no special or unique features to the MSI monitor. As far as I'm aware, all of this first wave of G-Sync PULSAR displays are basically the same. So it also includes, G-Sync ambient adaptive technology. It does work with HDR as well. And on MSI's model, they're offering DisplayPort 1.4a. They've also got HDMI 2.1. So again, like I mentioned in that G-Sync PULSAR video, even though this is using a G-Sync module, it's the new MediaTek solution, which does enable things like HDMI 2.1. And then we get some, USB stuff as well. So yeah, I'm not sure whether I'll be reviewing this monitor because I have already tested out PULSAR, and the main feature is, the new adaptive sync compatible backlight strobing, but MSI also have an option that's available for people. This is the MSI monitor that I was most excited to come and check out at CES 2026. It is the MPG 271K RAW 16. So they've started to use so many letters in these product names that we're getting actual words in the middle there, which maybe makes my job a little bit easier. Anyway, this is a 5K dual mode monitor, so 27-inch IPS LCD at 5K, and we've seen a few of these at CES so far from other brands like Samsung, Acer, Asus as well. But the unique thing about this version is that it comes with a 2304 zone mini LED local dimming backlight. So unlike all those other models, this one is going to have proper HDR support. So with 2304 zones, we're also going to get about double the number of local dimming zones compared to previous 27-inch LCDs that we looked at last year, the 4K models that also supported things like dual mode. So that should hopefully tighten up the contrast a little bit. IPS isn't the best technology in terms of tight contrast for HDR, so increasing the number of zones will provide a tangible benefit on this panel technology. Also, what we're seeing here is a glossy finish. So the Acer model has a glossy finish as well, but this will of course be the first one that's glossy and also has the mini LED backlight. I think I will end up preferring glossy. Now, of course, we'll have to test these products fully to come to those conclusions, but I think when you're talking about an HDR capable product, that glossy makes the most sense. So this is not a film that needs to be pulled off. This is the final production version, will be glossy. So other specs of interest, of course, 5K 165 Hertz, and you can dual mode that up to 1440p 330 Hertz. So this is kind of providing the best of both worlds. You can use 5K for sort of your desktop applications, creative workflows, pro apps, and then switch it over to 1440p, which is going to be much easier to run on your GPU. That's still a very good resolution for 27-inch panels, though we will have to see how the display scaling goes when we test it. But 330 Hertz is very competitive along with modern monitors of this sort of size and refresh rate. So we've also got DisplayPort 2.1 UHBR 13.5, and it is VESA certified to display HDR 1400. So at least one of those HDR specs will be at least 1400 nits of peak brightness. And usually with the display HDR 1400, it's going to be producing quite a bit more than 1400 nits. That's certainly what we saw with last year's models. The interesting thing that I was told when speaking to MSI employees about this product is that it isn't confirmed to be released. So they think that if they do release it, it will be priced around $900 US. So that is a little bit more expensive than the non-mini LED products. We were told between $700 and $800 for I think some of those other models. So it's only going to be a little bit more to get the mini LED backlight. But MSI don't have a firm release date for this. They are, what they tell me, assessing the market to see whether they want to release this product. So I think that's a little crazy to me because this seems like a really high quality and good monitor to release. You're talking about a 5K resolution, mini LED backlight with more zones than we've seen from the 4K models last year. It seems like a really capable panel. So the idea that they potentially won't be releasing this seems, really crazy to me. So I hope MSI does release this. Let's try and convince them to release this because I want to test it, I want to use it. So we'll see how that goes in the future, but let's check out some more monitors. When I was looking through MSI's CES monitor announcements, this is the product that came up as the most strange to me. So this is again a 5K monitor, as we've seen a lot of at CES, but the default refresh rate is only 75 Hertz on this model. And what they're doing is still using dual mode, so you'll be able to get it up to 1440p 300 Hertz. They're calling that quad boost for this particular model. It's also got a matte finish instead of glossy like we saw on the previous model, and it lacks the mini LED local dimming, so the HDR spec is down at display HDR 400, so it's not really an HDR monitor. So I thought, that's a little unusual. 75 Hertz is quite a low refresh rate for a modern display. I tend to think of 120 Hertz as being the minimum these days. So that was quite unusual. So I thought, why are they making this monitor? So speaking to people at the MSI booth, they told me that when this monitor is released, it will be priced at just $500 US. So that will make it the cheapest 5K monitor that we've seen here at the show. I think the minimum we saw from some of the other companies was at least $600 to $700 US. So to get the 5K 75 Hertz for $500, that will be an option. It is still going to be okay for gaming purely through dual mode. So the 300 Hertz support is going to be, I guess, the gaming mode, but I do have question marks over the 5K implementation. For creators, you don't necessarily need the highest refresh rate, but I still would like more of a refresh rate. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. Not sure whether I'll be testing this, but it is an option if you want 5K at a low refresh rate, but still with that dual mode functionality for some form of gaming at times. So let's move on and take a look at the MEG X. So one of MSI's new monitors here at CES is the MEG X, and I'm not talking about another Jason Statham action film here, I'm talking about MSI's new ultra-wide gaming monitor. And what is surprising to me is that I've told you the full product name, the MSI MEG X or MEG X. No letters and numbers salad. How nice is that? Very refreshing to see MSI just calling a monitor MEG X. Amazing, easy to remember, very memorable. And I guess that makes sense because this is MSI's flagship QD-OLED ultra-wide gaming monitor. So this uses the same 360-inch V-Stripe 3440 by 1440 panel as we've already tested in the monitor that's behind this, the 341 CQR. So this is designed to be a higher spec version of that. The panel itself is exactly the same, so we're not seeing higher refresh rate or increased brightness or anything like that. It should largely give you the same experience, same glossy coating and everything like that. However, they're introducing AI features. So a couple of years ago at Computex, we saw MSI go with this AI thing with monitors. I'd sort of described it as cheating features, and some of those cheating features were pretty egregious. They had a mode that would I think hook into League of Legends or one of those games, and it could see through fog, highlight enemies, pretty crazy levels of cheating that would have been possible on that monitor. I think MSI either never released that monitor or toned down those AI features significantly in the final release. And we're seeing similar here with this monitor. So none of those crazy, super over-the-top cheating features are available, no seeing through the fog type stuff. But I've been told that some of the things that this monitor will be able to do is reduce the brightness of flashbangs and sort of adjust the contrast and brightness when it detects flashbangs. It will be able to find models on screen, so certain characters and things like that, and raise the brightness of them, make them a little bit more visible. It'll also be able to zoom in on an enemy if it sees them. It should be able to raise blacks in dark scenes. So previously we have seen dark boosting, shadow boosting. That's a common feature on gaming monitors today. Some people consider that cheating, but it is of course widespread now. But you'll be able to do that in a more dynamic nature on the MEG X, so it'll only boost the black levels in some areas as opposed to the entire screen like you see on those other modes. And I think you can also talk to this monitor, something that maybe will be good for me because all of my friends these days are monitors, so you know, having someone to talk to would be nice from time to time. Down the bottom here we do have an RGB LED light strip, which I think is much better integrated into this monitor than we saw from the previous times that MSI used a light strip. On the last generation model, which was several years ago now, they implemented this really thick and ugly chin along the bottom, but I think this is a much more sleek and stylish implementation. And then you get the AI care sensor at the bottom there, which detects your presence and does all of that stuff. So the LED light bar does hook into the AI features and stuff like that, or supposed AI features, to show you things like your health in a game, your ammo count. You can do all of that with that sort of feature. The AI features that we've been talking about, you don't actually need to hook into your PC to run those. There is an NPU processor inside the monitor. It runs all of that on the device itself. So yeah, the previous implementation, like I talked about at Computex a few years ago, that required game integration, all sorts of crazy stuff. On this monitor, yeah, you don't need to do that. It is funny to see them, recommending single player gaming or practice modes for some of those more cheating oriented AI features, but I guess this is kind of the way monitors are going. We've already got crosshairs on most monitors, we've already got dark boosting, and now we're getting a few more advanced things here. But yeah, we'll check that out a bit later. We'll see whether we're going to review this. Not sure whether I will, because we've already checked out the previous model, but this will be the flagship version. One thing to mention at the end here is that I don't believe there is a firm price or release date for this model just yet. It will be more expensive than the other model that doesn't have the AI features. That one is $1,099 US, so expect this one to be higher than that. But yeah, we'll have to check back in on pricing when those things are more finalized. So the other day I was at the Samsung display booth. Samsung Display is a panel manufacturer, and we saw this technology in more of a demo, but here we actually have a final version of the monitor that is using this tech. So what we're looking at here is the Pro Max 271 UPX-W12G, bit of a mouthful of a name there. But what makes this monitor unique, at least in my opinion, MSI probably thinks there's a few other more interesting features, but so this is the new anti-glare low reflection coating, or AGLR coating. So for 2026 Samsung QD-OLED displays, they're offering two versions across their entire lineup. There's the standard glossy that you would have seen previously. So this is a 27-inch 4K QD-OLED. Previously you would have seen plenty of glossy versions of that panel. Now they're also offering people, well, the OEMs, the option to use the AGLR coating across their lineup. So this is one of those monitors that we're seeing here. What that means is, of course, it's a matte finish instead of glossy, which is more ideal, in my opinion, for a pro monitor where you need to guarantee, no distracting reflections and things like that in brighter environments. But it also introduces some of the benefits that we're seeing on the new glossy QD-OLED ultrawide, for example. They're also deploying 32-inch models. So this also has MSI's dark armor technology, so that improves black levels in those brighter ambient environments. It also has the screen hardness improvements from 2H to 3H. Those are deployed here, but on a 27-inch monitor. So far we've only seen the 32-inch and the 34-inch ultrawides using those on glossy panels, but those will also be available in the matte version here. So that's one of the unique things. Apart from that, we do get a 120 Hz refresh rate. We do also get something that is called the M color mode for MacBooks and also Apple devices. So the idea here is that it is a special color profile that's built into this monitor that is designed to mimic the colors that you would see on a MacBook or iPad display. So I believe that's a feature that you also get with some of Apple's displays, the full color calibration that sort of matches the two displays between the two different panels. That will be available for people that use Apple devices in their workflows, which I think is pretty neat because it can be a little difficult to calibrate those two displays to have the same sort of performance. MSI is providing that out of the box. You just have to switch over into the M profile and it will give you the same color performance. It's a 120 Hz screen. That should be okay for a lot of productivity use cases. I probably would still prefer to see it at 240 Hertz just because I use a 240 Hertz monitor for productivity and I think it's great, but 120 Hertz is certainly the minimum that is acceptable. It also has a 3-device KVM switch, and that is enabled because there are 2 USB Type-C inputs. So a lot of gaming monitors these days have your 2-device KVMs, one via the USB hub, the other via USB-C, so you can use one display, keyboard and mouse with multiple devices. With this monitor, you'll be able to hook up to 3 devices. So for some reason, if you're someone that has a desktop PC, another desktop PC, and then a 3rd desktop PC, you'll be able to use all of those at once with this monitor, which is kind of neat. So let's check out one of MSI's other Pro Max monitors in just a moment. This monitor is using another screen coating technology that I haven't seen before, which MSI calls Eyes Ergo Plus, aka a circular polarizing filter. So this is the Pro Max 271 QP-HW-E14. It's a 27-inch IPS LCD at 1440p, 144 Hertz. So that's pretty decent for creator workloads. However, the circular polarizing filter is something that I haven't experienced before. And I was told about this technology from panel manufacturers last year as an option for both these sort of pro/office PCs, but also gaming monitors. I think AOC is releasing a gaming monitor that's using a circular polarizing filter. But the idea here, or at least the claims behind this technology, is that it reduces eye strain compared to linear polarizing filters. So I don't quite know the explicit way, like the orientation of how it actually looks under a microscope, or if you look very closely what it looks like, some sort of difference in the polarizing layout. But the circular polarizer is designed to, instead of making all of the light rays coming out in a sort of uniform layout, the circular polarizer changes that depending on the specific part of the panel, which is supposed to improve the eye strain, or at least reduce the eye strain. Now, I sort of stared into this for a few seconds or a few minutes earlier, and I didn't get any eye strain, so that's a good sign. But I think you'll probably need to test this for many, many hours on end to see how well the circular polarizing filter actually works. But I thought that was pretty neat because it's supposed to be a technology that improves that potential problem for people. And we do hear from people that have eye strain for various different reasons across monitors. So flickering is a big one. If you have monitors with a flickering backlight, which can be an issue on some mini LED monitors, OLEDs as well do have a slight flicker. We've heard from people that are sensitive to that. That causes them headaches and eye strain issues like that. And then the polarizing part of monitors can cause eye strain for people. So the fact that they've sort of developed this new circular polarizing technology should help for people that are affected by that. So that's an option for at least an office monitor/pro monitor from MSI. So I was filtering through the rest of MSI's CES booth, and look at what I found. A display, another display, what I love, but it's on a case. And inside that case are some components, and this all goes together into a pre-built system which is called the MEG Vision X AI. So the screen on the front here, I think it's a 13.3-inch 1080p LCD, which provides you, well, it's actually a touchscreen as well. It provides you a look at all of your stats inside your PC. And I guess this is becoming a trend that we're seeing across some pre-builts and cases and things like that. The nice large screen on the front. This is quite a wide screen, so you get quite a lot of accessibility to view all your stats. And I don't want to mess around with this because at the Samsung booth the other day, I did touch some things and started to break some stuff. So I thought I'll just leave it alone, but I am told officially that it is a touch screen. Now, what you get with the MEG Vision X AI inside of things, well, it's a high-end system, hence having a screen, because of course high-end systems have to have lots of screens. So inside you get up to Core Ultra 9 processors. I think inside this one they've got an RTX 5090, and so it goes up to a 5090. I think it starts at a 5070. And one of the unique things you might see with this case in particular is there's this extra part over the side here. That is part of MSI's Silent Storm cooling AI solution. So it's a dual chamber setup. Inside here you've got all of the components, the CPU and GPU, and then over here you've got things like the power supply. It just separates that out so you don't get the power supply heat affecting your components. So that's designed to be a bit of a better solution for cooling. It does also use MSI's Project Zero, so the backside power connectors and things like that. Looks a bit cleaner in there. I'm sure Balin will get some nice B-roll of that, but it looks really nice inside, a nice high-end system for people. And this will be available at a lot of retailers and stuff like that. And if you do want a nice large screen, which is certainly something I would want on my PC, that is available with the Vision X AI. Look at what else I found here at the MSI booth. Right inside this pre-built system, I reckon there's between $1 and $2 million worth of memory inside this particular build from G.Skill. So what we're looking at here is one of MSI's new Pro Max builds. So if you go over and have a look at the Hardware Unboxed channel, we talk a little bit more about the Pro Max stuff at CES 2026. But basically what's inside this system is all the new Pro Max creator sort of focused stuff. You get the nice sleek white sort of look, unified design, and not as much RGB. In fact, that $1 million of G.Skill memory is the only illuminated element inside this entire case, which is a good idea for creators. So you'll be able to buy all these parts DIY, but you can also grab it as a pre-built if you want. So MSI will be offering that for people. And then if we step back here, they've also got a smaller version, the Pro Max 150 AI Plus. It cannot be an MSI video these days without talking about AI, because it seems like they name every single product with AI in the name. So Pro Max 150 AI Plus, smaller build. This uses one of the, I believe it's a mobile part, but of course they can use it for desktops. Not necessarily mobile, but integrated design. This system that we looked at before was just your regular X870, but this uses the AMD Ryzen AI 9 365 processor. So if you want that, that's also available for people as a pre-built. So we saw some pretty cool monitors here at MSI's booth at CES 2026. I'm super keen to check out that 5K monitor because I have seen quite a few 5K monitors here at CES, but I think the version that has the glossy screen and the mini LED backlight will probably be the most attractive. But then I was also told that MSI might not actually be bringing that monitor to market, so I guess we need to do a bit of convincing. Maybe if people are interested in that product in the comments, leave something below and MSI will look at the feedback and actually bring it to market. So yeah, apart from that, if you do want to check out some of the MSI components that we've looked at, including the new 5090 Lightning, which is super cool, we do have a video over on Hardware Unboxed that will cover all of that stuff, so check that out as well. But for now, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.